Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the CashFlowDiary podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other CashFlowDiary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the CashFlowDiary podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about something that I believe all of us, especially as you're out there to build your cash flow, should be doing 100% of the time right now. What is that? Contacting people, more of them, getting in front of them, letting them know who you are, what you do, and making that happen. In fact, I have with me today someone who the American Marketing Association calls the father of contact marketing. And you just said to yourself, what is that? I know. And we're going to find out. But most importantly, here's what you should hear. You should know that the gentleman that I'm going to introduce you to, if you do not already know Mr. Stu Heinecke, he's not only a marketer, he's also a cartoonist. And if you're like me, you said, how do those two things go together? Here's what you need to know. We're going to learn something unique and different because I have never thought of a cartoonist and marketer in the same person, let alone existing. And this is going to be an interesting story. But most importantly, it's going to have things for you and I to both learn, listen, and then probably even do. So if you're washing the dishes and you were thinking of, hey, I think I'll go for a jog right now, make sure that you have the buttons ready so that you can pause, you can bookmark, and you can make sure to capture the gems that are coming. Let's get ready to listen, love, and learn. Mr. Stu Heinecke. Stu, how are you doing?
Great. Good to be with you.
I'm glad that you are here. And I already know that this is going to be an interesting one for me. So I'm excited about it. Before we get too far, though, this being your first time here, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else. You ready?
Yep.
All right. I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes, like, you know, Batman, Robin, Wonder Woman, the Hulk, etc. You get the idea. Because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, I can envision myself flying around town using our products and services and saving customers one sale at a time. But also, like a superhero, they have a beginning, you know, just think about Spider-Man. There was a time where he was just a kid going to school, doing his thing. He's taking photos, wants to take a girl on a date. That was his thing. And then he gets bit by a spider, discovers he has a superhuman ability, and then has to decide, am I going to use this for good or for evil? So my question to you is as follows, that since you are the father of contact marketing, but before that, and before becoming a cartoonist, before, you know, being a marketer, before your two books, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone and Get the Meeting, what we want to know is, who is Stu Heinecke?
Well, and like, what spider bit me, baby?
You know, that would be a very unique spider, I'm sure.
You know, I'm glad you even brought up the superhero thing, because the ability to get meetings with anyone, that is a superhero kind of ability, isn't it? I mean, to break through to anyone, that's very powerful. If you think about it, every great thing that's ever happened in our lives happens because we make the right connections with people at the right time. You got to do that. So my story, well, you know, you might be wondering why. Well, you did. You're wondering why is someone a marketer and a cartoonist? And so
try to be either one, never both. So this is
usually
go for it.
Yeah, usually. Well, so you know, I mean, marketing is what I studied at USC, and I've always loved cartooning. I mean, I go back to the days when I was a kid, it was like a 10-year-old kid with my brothers sneaking Playboys out of our father's dresser drawers and looking at the magazine. And, of course, the pictures were amazing, but also the cartoons were just stunning to me as well. And I'm wondering, well, who are these guys? How do they do this? Are they elves or who does this? This is incredible. And it lit this lifelong interest in cartooning. So just separately, I just, sorry about that. But separately, I just loved cartooning. I was just doing it on my own. And I continued to develop that. So by the time I was in college, I started having some of my cartoons published in the papers in LA, the LA Herald. I don't even know if that's still there, but the LA Herald was one. And then I started to get really, well, then I became aware of the power of cartoons, and they're incredible. First of all, consider the fact that editorial readership surveys that have been done by magazines and newspapers forever have been finding that cartoons are almost always the best read and remembered part of the magazines and the publications. Best read part. That's incredible. These are collective works. Everything, is created by some of the most creative, smartest people in the world. Everything they're creating is supposed to be memorable and get your attention. And cartoons always walk away with the top marks. People love them. And so, I realized, well, when I start creating, which is what I wanted to do, when I start creating campaigns for clients, I want to work cartoons into this because they have an incredible special, power. I think we're probably going to theme this around superheroes, but they have this sort of superhero-like power themselves. People are drawn to them. I don't mean that as a pun, but they're really drawn to them. And then you think about the nature of humor. Just what is that, right? I mean, first of all, so again, we know that people they read them and they pay attention to them. But when you think about the nature of humor, it's about truth being revealed in a twist. It's why every time we laugh at something, before we can even catch our breath, we're going, "Oh my God, that's so true," right? I mean, we all go through that. So here's this device that I could put into, let's say, a direct mail piece, just going back a ways, but put into a direct mail piece, and it gets more attention than just about anything in the magazine, in the publication space, but also in a mailbox or in a stack of mail. If that stack of mail shows up and there's a cartoon, and by the way, I also combine that with personalization. If there's a cartoon and it's about you, you're going to pay attention to that. And so as a result, I ended up as a marketer amassing this incredible track record of creating record-breaking campaigns for, my clients were magazine publishers actually. So for their subscription campaigns, I was creating record-breaking campaigns all over the place using the magic of cartoons. So they actually fit together really well.
Okay. I have a lot of questions, and I just want to make sure I heard this. Did you say a cartoon about me? How could you do that? How do you send someone a cartoon about them?
Yeah, well, it's just this, the cartoon, well, usually when you see a cartoon, let's say in the New Yorker, for example, you're seeing a single drawing and then a typeset caption below, and something's happening in the drawing, and the caption probably is ironic, or somehow it leads you in a different direction. You realize what's happening, and you laugh. So, but it's very easy to. Well, no, maybe it isn't. But anyway, I'm going to tell you it's easy.
Easy for you.
Yeah, easy for me. So it's also easy for me to write or create a cartoon that includes someone's name. So the people in the cartoon are talking about, for example, you. They might be talking about you, and then when they. So I can insert, they're just data insertion points for first and last name. So you stick it in there.
Got it. Okay. So,
I can show you an example, but unfortunately no one can see it while they're listening, but I can show you one.
No doubt. But here's something. Here's what I got to hear. What was that first client where you pitched this idea to them? How did that go? Because it seems like there would maybe be some resistance, but maybe there wasn't.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the resistance came from, if you remember the name David Ogilvy, David Ogilvy was the original thought leader in marketing and advertising.
Okay.
Founder of Ogilvy and Mather, one of the top 10 advertising agencies in the world. People listened to what he had to say, and he was always saying, humor doesn't work in advertising, and people don't buy from clowns.
Oh, my.
That's what he used to say.
Oh, my.
Although, there were several of us out there who actually proved him wrong. We were making great headway in terms of response to these campaigns using humor, but it's really hard to do. Well, it's really delicate to do. I don't think Geico does a very good job on their commercials.
Oh, you don't like the list?
Really don't.
It's his mom's secret recipe for those cookies.
Yeah, it's just, we know who they are, but we roll our eyes at it. Right? That's not good.
Well, Affleck's got a duck. I don't know.
Well, Affleck was okay, but remember Wendy's Where's the Beef?
Yes.
So that one wasn't a terrible. I would guess it was funny at the time because Clara Peller, the actress, she delivered it so deadpan and so perfectly.
Yeah, she made it 100%.
So that was done by Joe Settlemeyer, famous, well, at least in the advertising world, a famous director. He used to create all these ads that just deadpan expression was kind of like you were watching a snippet from Candid Camera, if anyone remembers that. Mm-hmm. Like you're just watching this thing unfold and go, oh my God. It's just, he did a bunch of commercials that were actually record breakers. Some of them are named among the top 100 commercials of all time.
Wow.
And they used humor. But there was David saying, no, it doesn't work. And he was wrong. So there was a lot of resistance, but fortunately I was able to convince my first two clients, were Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, to give it a try. And,
hold on.
So they did.
Two clients, and it's Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit.
Those are the first two.
You like going for big. I do. This is good.
I do.
He's like, I'm not starting small. No. Okay, so then this then leads into, it has to, because you very few people go, my first client, Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit. This has to lead to the whole concept around contact marketing.
It does.
How does that happen? Because I know there's many people listening right now who, like, maybe their marketing channels are gone. They're reinventing themselves. They're like, oh my gosh, how can I get to that person? What, please explain it.
Yeah, sure. Well, I just mentioned those two campaigns, that they were test campaigns. Mm-hmm. They test in direct marketing. You're always testing against a control. So just like in statistics, you always test against a control group. So what they're testing, you create a campaign. If they've hired you to do that, you create the campaign, and then they test it against the best thing, the most effective thing they've ever put out in the mail. Mm-hmm. In that slot, whatever that slot is. And so if you tie their control, that means you just tied the record for the most response they've ever gotten, right?
Right.
If you beat the control, you just set the new record. And so my first two campaigns that I created, the one for Rolling Stone and one for Bon Appetit, they both beat their controls. So that's crazy, right? But I thought, okay, that's my entree into the rest of the publishing world. Well, what that meant was I needed to reach out to about 24 people who were the VPs and directors of circulation at, Time Inc. and Condé Nast and the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, et cetera, right? But not that many. There really weren't all that many people that needed to reach.
Sure.
And so I thought, okay, great. I'm going to put together a little campaign. I didn't know what to call it, so I called it a contact campaign. And the campaign consisted of an 8x10 print of a cartoon, one of my cartoons, but personalized for each recipient, and then a note. And the note said, "Dear so-and-so, this is the device I just used to beat the controls for Rolling Stone and Bon Appetit, and I think we should put this to the test for your titles. Let's talk." And when I'm talking to groups of people, I have fun with this and say, "So what do you think I got for a response to my very first contact campaign?" And they'll guess, and I'll tell them, 1% used to be this number that everyone would quote to say, if you get a 1% response rate in a direct response campaign, you're doing really good. That's kind of an average or like a good number. And there is no such number really, but let's use that for a second. So 1% response rate there. And if you think about click-through rates in digital. I mean, they're like thousands of a percent. So then I say, so what do you think I got for a response to this campaign? And they'll guess like, oh, maybe 10%. That's kind of getting wild, 50%, but it was actually 100%. I got through to all of them. All of them became clients. I mean, I met with all of them. All of them became clients. So that's a 100% conversion as well. This came from a campaign, Jay, that cost me like $100. And I launched my business from it. It was worth millions today. And it all came from that little campaign.
So, all right. So then let's play this game, because I know there's individuals listening. And so I'm just going to ask based upon my knowledge and what I'm thinking. For example, there can be situations in which me as a operator of short-term rentals, we provide short-term housing, but maybe I want to reach a particular company or a particular person in an organization who handles the travel for that company, because we have locations near their office, or like right now near their hospital, because we can house the emergency workers and whatnot. How do you cut through and using contact marketing? Because I can't draw, my friend. So I'm not drawing nothing. It's not going to work. So I got to hear this.
So I got to just say that, I use cartoons, and that's my contact patch with contact marketing.
Sure.
But I'm glad you asked this question, because it's not about cartooning. I mean, cartooning is one of so many different methods for breaking through.
Okay.
And so, when I wrote the first book, I had such a blast researching it, because, I kept hearing about stories, what other people were doing to break through to really important people. Mm-hmm. I said, my God, the more I heard it, the more I realized there's a whole like a form of marketing that no one even has a name for out there. It's kind of a shadow form of marketing. So some of my favorites, let's see, there's one really cool story about this fellow, Dan Waldschmidt, and Dan writes the blog Edgy Conversations. It's one of the top ranked sales blogs. Yeah. And he's an ultra competitive athlete. He runs 100-mile races and he wins these things. He wins, right? I can't even imagine running 100 miles in a month, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Maybe I'll drive it.
I'll do that. So, but the thing is, what he does professionally though, is he's a turnaround specialist. So he's looking to connect with CEOs of companies that are in trouble. Where do you find a list like that, right? First of all, but so what he does is a really, really interesting process. He combs the business news every morning for stories of missed earnings estimates. When he finds one, he has this beautiful sword made by the prop maker who makes all the swords for the movie, or made them for the movie Gladiator.
Okay.
So he has this sword made up, and it's engraved with the CEO's name, and it might have either one of his sayings as an inscription, or there's another one by Tupac Shakur. I can't remember what it is. Something about my army is my peeps or something like that. Cool. On a sword, that's pretty cool. And it's in this beautiful wooden box, felt lined box with a handwritten note. And it, of course, goes out to the CEO of this company that's just in trouble. And the note says, hey, dear Jay, business is war, and I noticed you lost a battle recently. I just wanted to let you know, if you ever need a few extra hands in battle, we've got your back. That's it. And it's on a plain piece of white, plain piece of paper, right? So you might think, well, there's no branding there. There's no logo. There's none of that stuff. Didn't put a business card in there. But actually, there's huge branding going on, a huge impression taking place, and really sort of a flip moment taking place, because it goes from who's this to, wow, who is this? Oh, my God. Right. So the CEO opens it up. Dan is getting 100% response rate to that campaign. So what he's doing is he's sending a visual metaphor, not a cartoon, but a visual metaphor, a visual representation of the value he hopes to bring to the table. You get this sword and you read that note and you know exactly who he is and what he wants to do for you, because he's willing to go into battle and die with you. And it's sort of the message. And it's pretty darn cool. Now, he spends $1,000 every time he sends one of those things out. So you might think, well, oh my God, I don't want to spend $1,000, for example, to reach the...
Well, it depends on the account.
It does, exactly.
I mean, it's all about, return on my ad spend. But so $1,000, okay, fine. Depending on the size of the account, that doesn't matter.
Could work, right? It could make all kinds of sense. And that's what happens with Dan. Every time he gets an assignment for, a turnaround specialist, as a turnaround specialist, every time he gets an assignment, those are worth $1 million and up.
Yeah. So
it makes sense.
Yeah.
But I also want to say, you don't have to spend $1,000 per person to reach out to people. There are all kinds of things that you can use for visual metaphors. It just has to be some item of fascination, but it also has to, it has to convey a message. And you and I we're not in the same studio, but we can see each other. And behind me, I've got a few examples back here. There's a
little toy chest, I'll call it. But yes,
it does. Yeah, it looks like a toy chest back there. But one of the places that I think, one of the sources for visual metaphors I think is incredible is fake food items. So there's a whole industry of companies that build these ultra realistic. They're not models. It's just fake food. It looks real, and these are used in display cases for delis and so on, restaurants.
Okay, so got it.
Food on. Like if they put the food up, it's going to rot after a while. But these don't, and you can't tell that they're not real. So, a lemon and making lemonade would be kind of a cool thing in a box.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
Yeah. Or one of my favorites, or they also make these spills. So it's like a knocked over martini or a knocked over beer can and not all kinds of things that are knocked over or spilled in some way. And they're ultra realistic. And so my favorite of those is coffee spills. And
coffee what?
A coffee spill.
Okay.
So and it's like, so it's this paper cup and it looks like there's coffee that has spilled. It looks like people will want to mop it up if they see it on your desk. Oh my God, I got to pick that up. But, if you use a custom cup, let's say, and it has your logo and your name on it and all that, and maybe there's a theme then about, spillage is about waste. It's about loss. And this is loss of opportunity. So I'm sure you could spin a yarn about, or a copy theme around loss or loss of opportunity around using your properties.
Right. So
what a cool thing. And those cost like $15.
Okay. So in this increasingly digital world, this is not necessarily, I guess what I'm feeling is that this is not necessarily a substitute for something that you may be doing online in a social media space, but it does seem like it has a place, but it also would seem like you would really, really want to know, like, what does it cost you to acquire a customer before you actually execute something like this? Because it doesn't seem like it's overly scalable, but it does seem like it's it's not highly efficient, but it's very effective. Would that be correct? Hey guys, thanks for listening as always, and I'm glad that you continue to support with each and every download and subscription and share. One of the things that I want to ask you, though, is where are you listening to me from right now? I know some of you, maybe you're on a treadmill, maybe you're washing dishes, maybe you're walking that dog, and some of you are actually in a vehicle driving right now. One of the fun things that you can do, get some of your time back, is begin to living a car-free existence. But even then, it can be a little complicated. So one of the things that I want you to do is I want you to go over to Zipcar. Go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary. It's a way that I am able to still go get a car just for a few hours, very, very simply, so that if I have a lot of errands to run and sheets to drop off and running to the short-term rentals, or if I just want to go for a long trip up to LA and back, etc., I can rent a car for a very, very short period of time. And the cool part is I don't even have to pay for any gas. Again, go to joinzipcar.com/CashFlowDiary.
Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on, because, this form of marketing, contact marketing, is not about the scale of the audience.
I see.
It's not mass marketing at all. What we're saying is, just like in that original example of mine in the magazine world, there were 24 people I needed to reach. And when I got through to them, I penetrated the whole like the whole industry.
Yeah, right.
So similarly, you want to look for the people. I mean, in my books, I say you want to create a top 100 list, but it might be a top 10 list or 25 list. And these are the people that, if you got through to them, they would be dream clients, or they'd be dream partners. They'd be dream referral sources. I mean, there are a lot of reasons why you want to connect with people, but they'd be the best ones. And if you got them as a client, as a referral partner, as a partner, they would change the scale of everything, right? So it is about scale after all. It's about exploding scale, but not by addressing a lot of people or a mass audience at all, but by addressing people individually based on their importance to you or potential importance.
And that, I think that's what I'm resonating with and liking the most, is the fact that there's a time for the mass stuff, but at the same time, like especially in my world, if we get the right corporation on board, or government entity for that matter, it's a done deal. There's not much more I need to do. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because their demand or what they have in terms of a need is so large that we would, occupancy, revenue, all those things would not, we would have other concerns, not necessarily that one. So is there a type of business where either A, this doesn't work, or one where it's absolutely perfect for?
Man, well, I mean, I don't recommend it if it's business to consumer, because that is, that's a huge, a large audience play. But otherwise, I can't even. So as long as if you're selling, I like what we call it business to business. So if you're doing business to business selling, I can't even think of anybody it wouldn't work for. And I'm not saying, by the way, we just want to emphasize this again. I'm not saying you got to use cartoons or really swords or anything else that I've described.
Oh, dude,
come up with your own stuff.
Use a sword now. I was getting all excited about it.
You can
what is a sword in the mail? We fun.
You can if you want.
Itself. Actually, what's funny about that is that when you said it, if I went and told my wife, she'd be like, "Yeah, I expect you to do something like that." I mean, she, in her mind, that would be normal me, and that's what that. But at the same time, that's got to be. It's so different, It's not. It's definitely not going to make it into the spam box. That's for sure.
No. I think what you really want to do, right? I mean, the thing you want to do is you want people, as a result of your outreach campaign, to be responding by saying, "Wow, I love the way this person thinks."
Right.
And Jay, I can absolutely. I mean, I know a little bit about you, but I've read your bio. And, we've been talking a little bit, and I could absolutely see you being one of the people that would do this easily. Actually,
I can see that too, Stu.
Yeah.
I can see that too, because one of the unique challenges, specifically as it relates to the industry that we're in, the standard or the overwhelming majority of our revenue would previously, we'll call it BC, as in before Corona, would come from the travel industry. And when no one is traveling, that doesn't mean we can't provide housing to people. It just means we have to go provide housing to different people. And some of those that we've had some challenges getting in contact with are like the hospital administrators, for example, or the chiefs of police or the firemen, because we can house them, we can help them quarantine in a safe way and all those things. But and there's a small number of them who are really, really busy right now. And it's things like that. And what I'm hearing, I was like, wait a minute, this could solve the problem. And because it's not difficult to find out who they are, but getting their attention, and especially right now, is a bit of a challenge. But now is when they're having the problem. So what would you say to someone who's like listening or considering this as a way to break through? how long does it take to quote unquote get good at something like this?
Well, that's a great question. I'm not sure how to answer it. I think you should read the book because that'll help you get really good at it. And I don't know how long that takes.
Yep. Totally understood. I got that part. Or
just listen to the book. You could just get it on Audible, but the book will help a lot. It'll help a lot. Now, you mentioned, BC and AC is really, actually we're in coronavirus. So,
right.
But that's really an interesting observation. I think actually, with the exception of some of the people you just mentioned, actually, if we sell business to business, if that's what we're doing, if we're doing that kind of business, this is an opportunity of a lifetime to make connections because everyone else is working from home and they're not used to it. And by now they're really getting bored. They're really like, God, right. Please, anybody call me or send me something or just reach out an email. Just do it.
Right. Well, I can hear you. I hear you there and I was actually telling people the other day that I think there's going to be this wave of like parental revolt because they didn't design their home to actually work at home. And two, even if they did, they weren't planning on having the kids there at the same time. Yeah. And so there's going to be this need to still get work done, but they want to go somewhere else. So I'm like, cool, come to our location, do your work here, and still go back and forth, to work from home. But it's solving this problem that you've done in this unique way that truly, truly has me intrigued. So let me ask this. Is there a wrong way to do this? Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I wouldn't want to teach you that. Well, I'm just thinking people can get creative and sometimes a little crazy, but I'm just thinking as I'm listening to you, I'm just like, wait a minute. This sounds like it does sound fun. But at the same time, you want to be, within reason at the end of the day. But I'm curious to hear some more of these stories or the way that this whole thing works. Because it sounds like the goal is to get their attention. And then once you've done that, the rest is up to you type of thing.
Yeah. And so, you asked how there's so many ways that you could go wrong. Actually.
Okay, how have you gone wrong, Stu?
Think about humor. We'll go back to cartoons for a moment. It's so easy to get it wrong. Right. And people are so anxious to be outraged about something. So you can trigger that pretty easily, especially when you're trying to be funny. That's probably it's magnified. But right. There are things like, I guess it's just the intent and the depth and quality of thinking behind what you've come up with. Because if it's a really thoughtful thing, people appreciate it. If you just, let's say, for example, if you're just sending books around, because Amazon will deliver books, and you just have to get the home. I've been doing it, so I'm having my books delivered all over the place. But you got to get permission first. So one way you could piss people off is just send it if you had their home address somehow. And not ask them for permission to send it because, I think some people might not want to get anything. They might be worried about the virus being on the package, for example.
Or they might be worried, like, how did you get my home address?
That too. Yeah, that too. I'm finding that people, I'm asking permission. So where do I send it? So they give me their home addresses. But, there's another one. There's kind of a form of contact marketing, one form, which is giving a gift, actually giving half of a gift. And I don't know that this really upsets people, but I don't think it works terribly, terribly well. So half of a gift.
Half a gift.
Yeah. So let's say the one that I hear a lot of is one shoe, but it's like a shoe that fits. It's a nice pair. It's one half of a nice pair of shoes that actually is the right size for the person. And then it's usually sent with a message that says, "I'd like to get my foot in the door. When we get together, I'll give you the other shoe." But it could be like a remote control helicopter model or a Ferrari or something, but sent without the control unit. I'll bring that in when we meet. That kind of stuff. And I think those are, I don't know. I think those are not really received in a positive way. And again, I don't know that it really has the person on the other end saying, wow, I love the way you think. It's more like you're bribing me.
Yeah, well, yeah.
If I do get together with you, I'm going to dismiss you really quickly, and I'm going to give this whole thing to my kid or my grandkids or who, I'm going to give it away. They're not going to keep it in the office. The best things that you can send, I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to cartoons for a moment, but if I send you a cartoon,
yes,
and it helps that I'm a Wall Street Journal cartoonist, so it's like a cartoon about you by one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists is pretty cool. If I send that to you, and now that I know you, I'm going to do that. There's no surprise there, but if I send that to you, that's something and I've gotten it right? I mean, if it's off target, then it's not, then who cares? But if it's on target, then that's going to stay in your office the rest of your career.
Yeah, it's not going right.
Or I described those other things like the coffee spill. Mm-hmm. It's like that's something you'd buy in a joke shop almost. It's such a cool thing. You're not going to throw it away. You put it on your desk so that everyone walks in and goes, "Oh my God, let me get that for you."
Right.
So if you send something like that, it's going to stick around. It's going to cause more. I mean, when I send is a big board, the cartoon thing. So it's an 18 by 24 inch, quarter-inch thick foam core board.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
They're really cool, and when people get them, they keep them in their office. Like they keep them, like say, on the credenza or something, and they keep them somewhere. But it's so big that they're not going to file it away, and they're not going to throw it away.
No,
so it doesn't quite fit anywhere really conveniently, and so it's kind of maybe cocked to the side. And people, I've heard so many stories from the people who've received these that they'll say, "Yeah, I have visitors come in, and they look right past me, around me, and they're looking at the cartoon. Where'd you get that?
What is that? So, where did you get that? How can I get one?" Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So those kinds, you really want to shoot for a level of impact that has people, well, a couple of things. One is that has the recipient saying, "Oh my God, I love the way you think. I got to meet you." And I suppose maybe the other one is, I talk a lot about flip moments, although not in either of my books yet, not in those books, but we want to create flip moments. So, people are generally a bit resistant to people who they don't know, who are knocking on their doors wanting to sell them anything. And so you want to flip that around. So it's, "Oh my God, I'm so glad you connected with me. I'm so glad you reached out." So it's a high bar. It's a really, really tough thing to create. You don't want to just send them candy and say, "Let's connect," right? It's just, there has to be a theme. There has to be an idea. There has to be something compelling about it that they just, I keep saying it, but they just can't help themselves. "Oh my God, that's incredible. That's one of the most clever things I've ever seen. I've got to meet you."
Right. Yeah, totally. No, totally. I get it. I like everything that you are saying right now, because you're giving me a creative solution to a challenge that I think many business owners are facing, trying to figure out, or even if someone's a brand new business owner for the first time, it's like, well, that's something I can do. I can do that. I can execute that strategy, and in terms of getting, someone's attention. Now, you mentioned 100% response rate. So how do you make sure they respond? Like, how are they, or is this like, because it didn't sound like you're putting any branding on it, no phone call, that type of stuff. Or how did they respond exactly?
Oh, well, so we actually know you do call. You are the response device. So you're calling, you're following up.
Yeah.
Great question. Many, many thoughts come to mind. I mean, you should still be perseverant in your follow-up. There are ways to automate that. I mean, for example, if you start up a retargeting campaign or remarketing campaign, and so they see your ads, they're going to be reminded of you constantly. So that's one. But really, it's dependent on you making personal contact, and that begins before you even make contact. So, for example, when we send big boards around, the cartoon pieces, we have this. If you're sending it to someone with an assistant, the people you mentioned, the police chief, I don't know that they have an assistant, but there are a lot of people with assistants, a lot of people that we want to reach out to, the people who can change our scale, who have assistants. And so you reach out, and the assistant has a really they're so impressive as people. I mean, they're some of the smartest people, sharpest people in their organizations, really. And think about it, the assistant to the CEO reports to the CEO. They're no different than any other C-level executive in that way. So anyway, when we reach out, we call up, say, hi, my name is so-and-so, and I'm calling because I'm sending a print of a cartoon by one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists, and it's about your boss. Well, very quickly, that call becomes an important call, right? They're going, what, really?
Right.
So, and you say, well, yeah, but I don't want it to be a surprise to your boss. Of course, I want you to know about this, but I want it to be a surprise to your boss, but not to you. So do you mind if I send you an email with the details, and I'll send my contact details? And, oh, sure. They usually say, oh, sure. Here's my name. Here's my email address. So send an email out right away. It's, thanks so much for your help on the phone. And then, again, I'm sending a print of a cartoon by one of the Wall Street Journal cartoonists. It's about your boss. I'll be sending it shortly. When I have the FedEx tracking information, I'll get back in touch. You can even then send a card out. We have cards that we send out with a cartoon about the assistant this time. And a little handwritten note in there saying, thanks so much for your help. Greatly appreciated on the phone. Greatly appreciated. They're going to love that. They'll keep that on their desks or bulletin boards, or on their walls if they're in cubicles or something. They'll keep it around a long time. And then you get back with the FedEx tracking information. Well, so by the time that big board arrives, you've had 4 contact points with the executive assistant. They're on your side. I mean, not like they're on your side versus their boss's side, but they're on your side in terms of, well, here's what the thing is. Everyone thinks that as executive assistants are just gatekeepers. They're just there to keep everybody out. And that's not what they're doing. What they're doing is figuring out who gets in and who gets out. They're kind of like traffic. I was going to say traffic cops, but really more to the point, they're like talent scouts. Or you could call them VPs of access because they report to the CEO, right? So they're looking for cool stuff, really amazing stuff that their boss would otherwise miss. So they're really a source of fascinating stuff, and they're always looking for that stuff. And so we start by involving the executive assistant in that, and so that, I guess that probably is a form of pre-contact perseverance.
Yeah, no, I like it. I know there's a number of people who are intrigued, interested, and listening, like myself right now, and they probably want to find out more. What's going to be the best way for them to track you down and figure more stuff out?
Well, you have to figure out how to spell my name. I'll spell it. It's STU for Stu. And then Heinecke is spelled Heinecke, almost like the beer, but not quite. So you can go to StuHeinecke.com. That's my author site. But probably the easiest way to get a hold of me is just to connect on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on that.
Got it. Love it. Now, as we wind down here, I'm curious because I've got this question for you. There's a number of people who have been listening this entire time, and they are, what's the word? They're at a different position. Maybe they started this episode going, okay, let's see. But now they're like, wow, on the edge of their seat, let's make this happen. I'm kind of excited. This is something I can do. This is going to help my business. And they're ready to go and go out there and, build their business and as they continue to pivot, etc. But like I know that when it comes down to it, as a human, anytime when we have something like that, oftentimes we have a companion, and that companion comes in the form of a voice that reminds us of, ooh, I don't know. You remember what happened last time you took a risk? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, is this really going to work? And for some people, they got, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're going to actually do it. They're going to follow through and do exactly what you say. In fact, they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
Quickest thing to do, easiest thing to do. You don't even have to have a campaign in mind, actually, is you use in my latest book, Get the Meeting, I've made a distinction between there's sort of two forms of personalization emerging. So one of them is what I call wide personalization, which is scalable. I mean, that's when I was creating mailings for, let's say, Forbes, and 2 million people would get it. And all we did was fill in their first and last name into the caption of the cartoon on the outer envelope. I mean, that's personalization and it's done on a very wide scale. And all we need to know is we just have to have the right spelling of your name, right? And the right address, and we can use it to connect with you. But the other version is what I call deep personalization, and that involves doing profile scrapes. So I should explain that social media has made it possible for us to really gather a lot of information on anybody. We just go and see what they post about, see what's on their profiles, etc. And you can start to discover things that they're really, really interested in. And when you do that, then you can approach them based on what it is they're interested in. And maybe it would be helpful for me to give you a story.
Go for it.
Okay, so one of the guys that I heard from after How to Get a Meeting with Anyone came out was a guy named Dom Steinman. And Dom said, look, a year ago, I was just graduating from college. I didn't know quite what I was going to do, but I was recruited, and I just accepted a job offer to become a sales development representative for a late-stage startup in Silicon Valley. And so what they had us do is, it was a bunch of us in a room, and we were all required to make 100 phone calls a day, cold calls. The company services apps and supports apps. So we had to make 100 phone calls a day. And what I quickly discovered was that was not working. Nothing was happening. If I got through to anyone, I was like, I might get one conversation a day out of that, but they were never worth anything, never got any deals. And so he was lamenting this to a friend over dinner one night. And the guy said, you got to read this book, How to Get a Meeting with Anyone. And so he did. He read it over the weekend and go, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to do profile scrapes, and I'll still make my 100 phone calls a day. But when I find someone, I'm going to focus on just a handful of people, like Stu said, and I'm going to find out something about them so that I can send them a gift that relates to that interest. So first one he found was, and again, this is a guy that no one from the company had been able to reach. Couldn't even get him to return a phone call. So he did some research, and he found that the guy was really, really into family, cooking, and technology. And so he had an apron embroidered with the Stanley C. Clarke quote. It's the famous futurist. And it said, it was something like, technology sufficiently advanced will appear as magic. So he had that embroidered on this barbecue apron and sent it out to him. And the guy immediately responded and said, oh my God, this was great. Thank you so much for sending this. How did you know? And they had a conversation, and a 6-figure deal ensued. I said, wow, okay. So he kept doing it. Suddenly his cohort started to notice he's doing something, because he's getting deals and no one else is. So they approached him and said, what are you doing? And could you teach us? He said, yeah, this is what I'm doing. So of course I'll help you. So first one he helped was someone who was trying to reach someone else, another account that no one had been able to break through to. No one had been able to speak to this guy. Right. So they did a quick profile scrape and found that he was really interested in falconry. And so they went to a falconry site, and they talked to the owner and said, what would be a perfect gift? And the guys directed him to this one page where there's falconers wear those big gloves. Yeah. So he said, get this glove. It's a fantastic glove, and it's only $95. So they bought it. They ordered it and had it arranged to ship it to the prospect. But they also downloaded the picture and sent an email over and said, hey, I just want to introduce myself. I'm with this company. I'd love to just talk with you a few minutes. And by the way, I'm sending you this glove. I hope you enjoy it. I know you're interested in falconry. Hope you enjoy it. Well, the guy wrote back right away. And he said, oh man, that's so cool. Thanks so much. Look, the thing is, I'm not a prospect for what you're selling, but I really appreciate the gesture. Well, then the falconry glove arrives a few days later, and the guy's right back in touch. And he says, oh my God, I got it. This thing's so cool. Listen, thank you so much for sending this. You know what? I remember I told you I'm not a prospect, and I'm not, but I know of 3 CIOs who are, and I'm going to make an introduction, and more 6-figure deals ensued. Yeah. Well, then then the bosses started noticing what is going on down there. I guess I imagine the bosses are up higher, and they're on a different floor. Anyway, what's going on there? What is making this difference all of a sudden? And they all pointed to Dom and explained it, and so they promoted Dom to sales manager of the company right as it was being acquired by, I think, Cisco for $4.7 billion. So in a span of a year, Dom went from a college graduate, brand new, wet behind the ears recruits to being sales manager of a multi-billion-dollar company. And that all came from just profile scrapes and just finding out what this person really, what's kind of like what their hot buttons are. But, if they have a dog, or, get a picture and do something with the picture and ship it to them, or use your imagination. Every one of these, this is not scalable, but you don't need scale right now. You just need to be able to start something within the first 24 or 48 hours. And that's something you can start now.
I like it. I definitely appreciate it when a creative can take their information and package it in such a way that all of us can use it without having to have your unique abilities, specifically being able to draw in your case, because I can't do that. And but you make it accessible for all of us. And that is in and of itself is a completely different superpower. But I definitely want to say just thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, your wisdom, and your insight here with us today at the CashFlow Diary.
Jay, what an honor to join you. Thanks for having me on the show, and I hope everyone does get a lot of value out of it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? Go connect with them on LinkedIn, because like I know, he wants the personal connection anyway. So just go make that happen, because, wow, what would the one right account be worth to you, to your business, to this new idea that you have? And it sounds like you've just been given a way to figure out how to make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you are in action around this one, because it's very exciting at this particular time, because it is a unique opportunity for each and every one of us. It's been fun talking to you guys today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.